All right, so what's going on, guys? So in today's video, we got a couple things going on, but actually going to start off with opening some packages because I actually want to get this stuff put on the car. I guess I'll start off with the most obvious. So if you order off Walmart.com and they have it in a store near you, they'll actually just load it up in a bag and somebody will drive it to your house. So you end up getting it really quickly. I just ordered these yesterday. Now, of course, these are supposed to be 2 twin packs of fire extinguishers, but I guess they didn't have them. They gave me 4 individuals, which is fine too. So these are just some basic, like 2.5 pound, I think, fire extinguishers, ABC rated, so you can use them for all types of fires. That part is important because you don't want to spray something that's incompatible on your fire and end up making it worse. I like to keep a few of these around. And for me, this is really like a once a year purchase. So I have one that I'm going to hang up in the garage, one I'm going to put in the car, one I put in the kitchen, and I just have a spare one because, again, I had ordered 2 packs. And these end up only being about $12 a piece. You can't refill them because they actually have a plastic head. You don't want to test these because once you kind of pull that pin, they're going to leak because that's going to cause them to drain more quickly. Just keep an eye on the little gauge here and make sure it says it's still in the green. Otherwise, again, you can just toss these out once they're done or once they're empty. So my experience, they normally last a while and they're good to have. So of course, if you have a fire and it's getting out of control, you need to just remove yourself from a situation, call the fire department. But for little small things, these can definitely save you a lot of hassle, and they're good to have, like I said, in the kitchen. When you have a project car, especially something like this can actually save your car because a small fire can blow up really quickly. So what this is, again, is a package from JD Customs out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. And what we have here is something that's going to save me a lot of headache. This is the harness for the coil on plug or cop kit. Of course, this is using the Denso coils, and this will plug into your factory Mitsubishi wiring harness and convert it, be able to be used with a cop kit. This is his extended version, so that the plug will actually sit behind, like closer to the intake manifold and not on top, so you won't have to see those. I do also have his cop plate. This is for an Evo 8. Of course, it fits the Kia/Hyundai head as well, and to be used with the Denso coils. Now, these are OEM coils that can be found on a bunch of different Toyotas. There's a few different models too. There's a longer one and a shorter one. Like I said, so there's a longer one and a shorter one. I know these shorter ones can be found on like the Toyota Yaris, and these can be found on Camry. So I actually got these from the Junkyard, but he does provide those as well. So all in all, not including no coils, which I sourced on my own. So all in all, this cop kit is going to cost me about 170 bucks. And that's not including the cost of the coils, of course, but everything together and what you need to get up and running on a cop kit, 170 bucks. You cannot beat that. Now you might be thinking to yourself, so Jay, you're pretty handy, you're a DIY guy, why didn't you just make that yourself? If we look at it, this is just a piece of steel with some holes drilled in it. And of course, I have the ability to drill holes. I have some spare steel around here. I could have made this, but for what he charges for this stuff, I didn't feel like it was really worth it for me to do it myself, and a little bit of money that I would have saved. Because of course, we have to look at everything. Time is money. Of course, this is a precision cut. I know this will fit, and it looks good. He's got it coated. I think it's anodized, might be powder coated. I'm not sure what it is, but he's got it and it looks really good. It's a nice quality piece. Got some good thickness. So yeah, I could have made it and saved a little bit of money, but for the quality of that piece and how much he's charging, I definitely think that's the way to go. The same thing with these. Of course, this is a pretty simple wiring harness. I have, as I showed you, the plugs for the Toyota because initially I was going to make my own wiring harness. Now, props to him. He actually has a video on YouTube explaining in detail of how to make this harness, and he uses brand new plugs, wires, pins, and sheets. But again, just the amount of time that it would take and what he's charging for them make this an even better value. I mean, just look at that. Everything's heat shrinked. Just the initial quality of this thing looks amazing. Fit and finish is there. It's definitely an appealing piece. So that's why I didn't make that myself. But of course, if you don't want to buy the pre-made harness, he does offer, the individual clips and pins and wire and harness and everything that you would need to buy it yourself and save some money. But again, the quality is going to be hard to beat with a DIY job unless this is something that you're familiar with doing. And of course, with anything on the internet, there's arguments on whether comp kits really do anything or not. Some people claim they increase horsepower, gas mileage, responsiveness. Again, you know, of course, it's going to give you a stronger spark. This car actually uses what's called a waste spark system, which means each spark plug doesn't get its own dedicated spark. It's always firing at least 2 plugs at one time, and one of which is going to waste. That's why it's called the waste spark. And some people will argue that a system like this, where you're just splitting it, doesn't serve as much of a purpose as it would on a car that had a dedicated coil on plug setup or even a distributor converted to that, like, because of that. All right, guys, so to install the comp kit is actually really straightforward. All you're going to need, in addition to what I showed you, is just some bolts to actually hold the plate down. But all we're going to do is just unplug our factory coil packs. Of course, we're going to remove these, drop in the plate and our new Toyota coils, and tighten everything up, and then that's it. So the car should run better. It should have a little bit more stability with the spark on the top end, like when we're doing pulls, and it just looks better. Now, of course, if you've done the head swap, you know that you had to extend these wires to fit, because the stock single cam stuff doesn't reach. So this, in combination with the fact that I bought his extended length harness, I should be able to, really almost wire tuck this and get these wires completely out of the way, so there'll be nothing seen from the top. So my first step is going to be to unplug these factory ones, like I said. Kind of drape these off to the side. And again, now we're going to remove these bolts to hold the coil pack on. And of course, we're not going to need these anymore. So the next step is going to be to install these boots. Now, I'm sure you can buy these new, but like I said, I got my coils at the Junkyard, so kind of pull these with it. But this is going to help seal the bottom and not let anything get down in there. Now, they are a little small, so you do have to play with them to get them to fit on that lip, but they do fit. All right, so now that we've got the boots in there, we're going to go ahead and get our plate together. Now, you do want to take note of the orientation. So, of course, goes like that, but if you put it in there, you notice that the holes don't line up. It's just because it's upside down. So you'll take note of the orientation, because now we're going to get our coils and everything hooked up to this plate. All right, guys, so now we're going to assemble the cop plate and the actual coils. So you want to make sure you get some authentic coils. In this case, I went with some Denso coils from a Toyota. I think this came off a Yaris, perhaps. These are a little bit shorter than the ones from the Hondas and from the Camry. And the only real difference is the overall length, as far as what I can tell. But you want authentic ones. They should say Denso Toyota made in Japan on them. All right, guys, so obviously setting up a cop kit, it's pretty simple. What I end up doing is just use some of these Allen head bolts that I had from that kit, from my engine dress-up kit. I did have to go get a couple from the hardware store, because these ones here are actually really short, the ones that actually connect the plate to the valve cover itself. I did put, what you can't really see, a small washer below the plug, like on the bottom side, just because the part where it mounts is actually a little bit higher than the base. Now, I did mention that I put the boot on the valve cover first. Now, you don't have to do that. You can mount it on the coil itself, but that way, if you mount it on the valve cover, it just ensures that it seals properly up against the valve cover. So you can see, of course, with his harness, it looks pretty clean. The only thing I don't really like, I wish there was a cutout on the plate for these wires to fit down in, so they could be below the plate. But if you do notice, there are no plugs here. You can't really see the plug over here and down and around. I've got them below the fuel rail back there. So overall, it's a pretty clean setup. I think I will drill some holes on this plate just to tuck these wires below it. But all in all, that's what you're looking at. I think that looks pretty good. And I actually did drive the car with these on, and I can tell you they do make a difference. The car did idle smoother, did drive smoother. It's hard to really explain, but you could definitely feel the difference. And this also resolved the issue I was having with the spark blowout at the top. So I think it's worth it, especially for the really low price of admission you get. It makes a difference in the drivability of the car because you get a stronger spark. So of course there won't be a video on me demonstrating what I was trying to explain to you because if you watched the end of my last video, I told you guys that it broke again. So now of course we have what I have determined as rod knock. Now what I think happened, and actually I'm going to go ahead and put this on the tripod here. All right guys, so basically what happened is I took the car out to get one more log before we could turn the boost up. So obviously I'm excited, you know, after all this time we can finally turn the boost up. So you guys know, on 10 pounds it is making about 190 to 200 wheel horsepower, so not bad. Definitely not going to be terrorizing any streets, but the car is pretty quick, pretty fun to drive. Of course I did have an exhaust leak. I did find that. I had 4 pinholes in my downpipe that I made here, so that was really on me. And I was really looking forward to getting this thing done and getting it turned up, because the goal for this was to run about 20 pounds of boost. And that should put me close to that 300, maybe even 350 mark if I'm lucky. And of course, at lower power ratings, the 2.4 tends to make, you know, a little bit more, if not equal, torque. Like 300 horsepower, 300 foot-pounds of torque. The car should be pretty fun, and at least be able to hang with most of the cars that are around here. We don't have anything special around here. There's not many really fast cars. It's mainly just like FRSs, 350s, bolt-on, Camaro, and Mustang, stuff like that. So this thing about 300, 350 will definitely keep me competitive with just about everything that's around here, at least for now. So anyway, back to the story. So I took the car out to do the pull. Of course, I wanted to test out the new lights that I had just finished, and I installed the comp kit at the same time. I took the car out, I do my pull. Just as I'm driving, I'm actually on my way back home, you know, the car starts acting really funny. It starts to buck a little bit. It won't let me rev above like 2,500, 3 grand. I look over at the computer, the knock sensor's going crazy. And at that point, I pretty much knew what was going on. I had a good idea of what was happening. But fortunately, I was able to limp the car home, get it back in the garage, just run a few tests just to confirm what I had already suspected. I did drain the oil, and the oil looked metallic. So at that point, I already knew what had happened. So it looks like I lost oil pressure at some point, and in hindsight, it's something that I think I could have caught, even though I couldn't have really done anything about it, because and what I had noticed, and it didn't really ding on me until after the fact, was that my cold starts, my oil pressure used to be about 100 psi. It had dropped to about 50 or 60. I didn't really pay much attention to it. I kind of figured because the weather was getting warmer, of course there would be less oil pressure because it wasn't as cold. Obviously, oil is going to be a lot thicker, you know, when it's 30 degrees outside as opposed to when it's 60. So I figured maybe that had something to do with it. Of course, in hindsight, that turns out not to be the case. And I do have an oil pressure gauge, but when you're in the middle of a pull, you're not looking at your gauges. I'm really just focused on the road ahead. I think I had an oil pump failure or something along that lines that caused me to spin that bearing. Again, that could come from a few things. It could just be because, again, the motor does have 186,000 miles on it. It could have just been on its last legs just because of age. And especially because I'm trying to do a lot more with the car and rev it a lot higher than it was really intended to. Or it could have been because of poor maintenance. It's probably a combination of both, just poor maintenance and just the age of it. The thing just couldn't keep up. So what do we do going forward? So am I going to sell the car? Of course not. I'm not going to sell the car. I expected there to be some hiccups. So it is unfortunate, but I'm not going to sell the car. I didn't even consider that. 2, in my last videos, a couple guys commented on, thank you. A couple guys commented that it's time for a built motor. So as far as that goes, if you guys have been following the build in my channel for a while, you know I already have some of the parts. I already have the rods, I already have the bearings, and a few other odds and ends to do the engine build. But when I look at the total list of what I need to finish the engine build, you're looking at another $1,000 plus to really get me where I want to be with the parts that I want. Because I do want to build this engine to be stout and handle a good amount of power. And of course, I'm not rich. $1,000 is still a pretty hefty expense, and because of the way I budget everything, that would take away from other projects. Like I haven't painted the car yet, and of course that's money that I can use for my all-wheel drive swap. And again, if you follow my channel, you remember the original plan was to turbo it, make about 300 horsepower, all-wheel drive swapping and then built motor. That way I could work out the kinks as I went. So $1,000 is gonna push those things further back, again, because I don't want to just go out splurging, buying a bunch of stuff that I know I really shouldn't be. In addition to building your motor, you have to consider the time that it's gonna take to do that. So of course, you can't just take a block, throw forged rods, pistons in it, and call it built. There is some machine work that needs to be done. The block from the Eclipse is actually at the machine shop and has been there for a while. They're just waiting on me to drop off the pistons so they can do what they need to do as far as getting the bore and everything correct. But then there's balancing that needs to be done and so on and so forth. So in addition to the like $1,000 plus that I would spend on parts, it would also take a couple months for me to get all that done to be able to start to build the motor. And I really don't want the car to be sitting for that long if I can help it. So that leads me to option number 3. Go to the junkyard and pull a block and try to make it work. So I decided on this just because a block at the junkyard is about like $65, $66 according to that website. There's a core charge, not really worried about that. I know I can pull the block pretty quickly, and it should be the best option as far as getting this thing up and running again cheaply and in a timely manner. The issue can be with that at the junkyard, you don't really know the condition of the engine there. Like there's a few tests that you can do, but even with that, it's still kind of luck whether or not you get a good engine. So we'll see how that goes, and of course I'll take you guys along for that. So that's my plan for now. Go to the junkyard, get it done, and then hopefully have this thing up and running in a couple weeks. So the silver lining behind this is that this is going to give me the opportunity to make some more content. And what I was thinking about doing was to do some shorter, more detailed videos, kind of detailing the process as we move forward. So you guys let me know down in the comments below what you think about that, whether I should stick to my current format or really try to switch up to putting out more videos that are shorter and more detailed, and see how that goes. So you guys let me know what you think in the comments below. But with that said, I want to thank you guys for watching my video. If you haven't already, hit that like button, that subscribe button. Keep sharing my videos. I appreciate the growth, and have a great day.